So how can I learn to discern healthy boundaries from my cold emotional walls? How can I start to learn what healthy boundaries feel like in the body and start to move in a direction with practice? What a wonderful question. I'm not going to sit here and talk at you about how you would experience this in the body. We're going to bring it into the body. So let's think about, let's notice, we're going to make an intention to connect with our body in conscientious way right now, to have a little bit of mindfulness. And we're going to externalize it. We're not going to do a deep meditative process, although you could do this with a deep meditative process. But for now, we're just going to do a quick demo. So I might have you on the page draw a figure that represents your body. It could be a stick figure, a bubble figure, whatever you want it to be. Probably nothing too dramatic or elaborate. We're just going to do a quick demo here. And I'm going to have you help me out with this. So in the chat, if you could type in a phrase that would trigger you. What's a phrase that would trigger you and that you have responded defensively to in the past? Okay, I'm sorry you feel that way. Sorry you feel that way. You're asking this too personally. Black women are too bossy. Oof. I'm getting tired of this. Yeah, you're too intense. You're so selfish. Okay. All right. So let's do this together. Let's do this together. We have some good group energy going on. Okay. So let's close our eyes for a minute. We're just going to drop our awareness into the body. And I might have you just notice for a moment that when you breathe, the expansion of your lungs, the opening of your ribs, and a spaciousness that gets created inside. And with every breath, we let that spaciousness get a little bigger. And as we do, we just acknowledge that there is an inner landscape. There is an interior space. And in this space, we have some energy, some movement that allows you to touch upon, to name, claim, and to advocate for your boundaries. And so I'm going to read off some of these phrases. And as I read the phrase, I want you first to notice, where does it land in your body, in the landscape of your body? Like, what part of your body, where does it go? And I want you to assign a color to that. I want you to assign a shape and some kind of texture or symbolic representation. So I'm just going to go through the list. I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry you feel that way. Now notice where it lands in your body. What color is it? What shape? What texture? Now I'm going to have you open your eyes and depict that on your body graph. We're going to move quickly here. When we slow down, there's too much thinking. So for me, mine blue right in the neck. Next one. Close your eyes if you need to. You don't have to, but you can. You're taking this too personally. You're taking this too personally. Where does it go in your body? What color is it? What shape or texture? You're taking this too personally. And once you've got it, I'm going to open your eyes and draw that on your body graph. Mine is in my sacral. Okay. Here's our next one. I'm getting tired of this. I'm getting tired of this. Where does it go in your body? I'm getting tired of this. Where does it go in your body? What color, what texture, what shape? How does it reveal itself to you? I'm getting tired of this. Mine's in my feet. Okay, next one. You're too intense. Ooh, that one hit me. You're too intense. So you're going to drop that into the landscape of your body. Where does that go? What color is it? What shape, textures, lines? You're too intense. And when it feels ready, you can add that to your drawing too. Mine was in my heart space. You're too intense. Let's do one more as an example. You're so selfish. You're so selfish. Where does that go in your body? What colors, shapes, textures, or lines represent that? You're so selfish. And when you're ready, you can add that to the drawing. Mine was actually in two places, my solar plexus and my root. So we have some other great suggestions here in the chat, and I would encourage you to, we can paste these in the Facebook caption too with the replays, so that if you want to come back to this exercise, you can try the other phrases as well. But the reason I did it this way is because I wanted you to notice, when we're talking about boundaries, we're really talking about an energetic experience, right? And that energy, emotions are energy moving through the body. It's really good information, right? And if we can conceptualize boundaries in a more visceral, externalized, symbolic way, this is going to create a scaffolding, a symbolic and metaphorical scaffolding in your awareness, in your consciousness, and in your mind and in your neocortex that allows you to, over time, scaffold these experiences one on top of the other. And now you have a sense of, ooh, so that what you're saying there brings up this feeling inside me, and it's a blue, sharp feeling that cuts off my throat, right? And now I know that I don't like that thing because it creates a blue, sharp feeling that cuts off my throat. So what does that mean I need? What does that mean I want and need? Well, I want to have an open throat. Maybe there's a different color I associate with openness. Maybe purple would be my open color, right? I want to have an open purple throat that has a clear passageway. Well, what does that mean that I need? Well, it means that I need someone who invites me to speak. It means that I need someone who leans in, makes eye contact, and touches my hand when I'm expressing myself to them, right? So we get more granular with questions like this in your second lesson, but this is what we're kind of gathering at. Now we can continue to play with this. We might say, so I said, well, my throat feels sharp and cut off and blue. So we can play with this. Well, let's just play with it metaphorically and creatively. Like, what do you need? If you don't want a blue, sharp, cut off throat, what do you want? Well, I said I want a purple open gateway, right? So now I'm going to maybe just add in my purple open gateway. Or I might create another figure next to it in comparison, because our whole discussion here is about comparison, right? So maybe I'm going to give myself an open purple gateway. So if I know how that felt in my body when I heard that term, now I'm going to drop an open purple gateway into my throat. Oh, and I just felt like a big opening right here. So now I know what that feeling's like. And when I am in conversation and that opens up, I'll know that I'm with someone who's respecting my boundaries. right? So let's do another example. What was another one? I think, so the next one I had was, I think it was the emotions one. I'm sorry you feel that way. You're taking this too personally, right? So this one I had for you're taking this too personally, that was in my sacral. And it was a sense of sacral is also our emotion center in the Hindu chakra system. And so it felt like you're taking this too personally. So I got this image of like a big, chaotic, fiery kind of image hanging out in my emotion center in my sacral. And that like the fire is there because I'm too hypersensitive, that kind of thing. So what would I prefer to have, or what would that require, right? So you might think about in your body, how was that depicted? How did that show up for you? And what does it need? So my fire, I'm just going to ask, like, what does my fire need? It doesn't want to be doused. It wants to be contained, and it wants to be balanced with water. So the image that came up for me was there is a deep well, like a natural spring, and there's a like a fire pit in the middle, like a fire pit in the middle. And it's not a fire that scares people off or invites dismissal. It's a fire pit like you would have around a campfire where people want to come and they want to connect and they want to relate to each other. It's a warm fire. It's an inviting fire. So I find myself creating a little fire pit instead. And maybe it is by a large body of water. So it's kind of an elemental balance. So that's an image that comes up for me with healthy boundaries around people dismissing my feelings, right? Dismissing what I am perceiving. So if I drop that fire pit down into my sacral, it feels a lot more contained. It feels reassuring that no, there are people who take me seriously and want to connect with me. And so I'm able to validate this is not about me taking things personally. This is about me connecting to my fire and my divine spark. And so I can create a boundary around that. I'm not going to take in what you're giving me, right? So why would someone say something like, you're taking it too personally? Well, because they feel ashamed. They probably feel ashamed about the impact of their behaviors on you. So they're trying to dismiss its impact on you so that you withdraw your upset. And that reduces their shame. So now it brings us back to our original question. Is this my shame or is it their failed expectation? Right? What if a couple of these don't land in your body? Well, there could be a couple of reasons for that. I might ask you first, why do you think that might be? What do you notice about that? It's never wrong, right? This is never wrong. If something doesn't land, then that's information. This didn't land for me. It doesn't impact me. There you go. You've neutralized, yeah, I don't have an insecurity around this. I've neutralized its effect. My body isn't mobilizing in response to this. You may have just neutralized its effect. For other individuals, people who tend to dissociate, for example, they may have a tendency to leave their body. So this activity could be helpful, but it depends on where they are in their growth trajectory, right? So even just having them imagine that when you breathe, you create a space inside, that could be too abstract, right? So it really depends on where people are on their path. Is there a way to respond to the person's reaction, say to shame, in a way that fosters connection? Yes. So that would be in the ways that we talked about when we expressed, what would healthy boundaries look like? So you're going to this is a lot of what we talk about in my program called The Courageous Communicator. But when we're talking about difficult feelings, right? Part of it is that you want to clarify what's the emotion versus an evaluation. So are the words that I'm using to express myself really true to the energetic and emotional experience I'm having inside my own mind and body? Or is it decentering myself to try to keep the focus on what someone else is doing. So I feel abandoned. That's not really a true expression of what's going on inside your own mind and body. That's an evaluation of what someone else is doing to you. What does abandoned feel like? Helpless, powerless, lonesome, invisible, disconnected, right? So these are things that exist inside of you. Heavy, dark, vacuous, vacant, empty, right? So the more that we can connect to the feelings that we're having inside, even if it's shame, right? I'm feeling shameful. Well, tell me about that shameful feeling, right? Or I noticed you just pulled away from me and that you are turning away and that your language has become sharp and incisive in this conversation. And I feel alone. I feel you pulling away. I feel empty and I feel scared. And I'm wondering if there's any way that we can connect to what you're feeling right now. Now, I am speaking at a relatively high level, right, of people who've done some work. They've been learning some of the tips and tricks in language and in communication, safe and soft strategies with anxious or avoidant partners, evaluations versus emotions, looking at how are we going to keep the focus on the I while acknowledging degrees of influence in relationships, like fault versus responsibility, intention versus impact, right? Validating and invalidating experience. So there's a lot there in that question. But if you have like a specific bit of dialogue you want to share in the student group, you can post that and tag me and I can give you some feedback on that. So with that, thank you so much everyone for joining me here today. I hope this helps you with understanding boundaries and playing with it in a fun and creative way. Also remember to subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. I put out videos once a week and I wouldn't want you to miss out.